Hello YouTube, Rynoka here, and welcome back to Moonlighter. There's been a little bit of a gap between the first episode and the start of this recording, where I've basically just cleared out all of my inventory and kind of gotten base pricing for all of the most common materials that we're really going to find down in the dungeon. That'll really speed things up whenever I need to actually do the shopkeeping parts later on in the video. But for this episode, we're really going to dive into the namesake of the game, and we're going to see what it's like while we're out moonlighting at night while the shop is closed. So we've gotten in a previous tooltip, that the dungeon is harder but more lucrative at night. And we're going to find out exactly what that means. We're pretty well stocked up. I've got 5 healing potions, which you can see in the upper right hand corner there. It's going to allow us to stay down in the dungeon just a bit longer this time, but as we're going to pretty quickly find out, there is a time limit on what we can do down here, and we'll be sort of rudely introduced to that mechanic, I'm sure, during this episode. So to start things off, I guess we're just going to try to explore everywhere in the dungeon. These little guys are super annoying, as they will attempt to steal stuff from you and can pick up loot that is left on the ground by other enemies that drop it. And I find these guys not so bad as long as we've got sort of a slashy side-to-side sword. Really, the different weapons all work well against like specific enemy types. For example, I really like fighting these guys with a spear. Of course, right now our best excuse for the spear is a broom, but if we were using an actual pointy spear that did, more damage, that would go a little bit smoother, and it keeps us out of their pretty impressive range. I don't like trying to approach those guys on the diagonal, because I pretty much always seem to screw it up. Alright, we've got some jellies. That's always fun. One of those just sort of wiggle around if you get grabbed by that thing. These guys tend to... Ooh, empowering crystal. I don't think I've actually seen one of those before. I was going to say those guys tend to drop the jelly material, which is often used to craft healing potions, but then the game made a liar out of me, and they did not, in fact, drop those at all. Alright, so dead-ended this way. We can do a little bit of backtracking here. And then probably go up. I like up. Up is generally good. Oh man, we haven't really seen it yet, but there are like a couple of different types of sort of special rooms that we can encounter in every dungeon. Like there's a bit of variety here. I haven't gotten off of the first floor. I do know that there are entrances to the other floors, but as soon as we make it to that point, I'm basically playing blind. And so far, I've really only I played like the first floor all the way through maybe one time before I started recording, just to test all of my equipment and like not swords and sorcery style, but like microphone and recording equipment style, and make sure that everything was jiving there. Okay. As a basic weapon, the sword and shield, pretty decent. If I actually ran into one, I would probably try to demonstrate now, but those, I've heard of them as big guys, but the sort of floating golems with their own sword, the one way that I do find to fight them with the sword and shield combo is, I do have a shield. I haven't been using much of it, but it is, oh man, kind of rushed a little bit trying to grab that one item. You'll see if loot falls over a pit, it stays for just a moment, but you've got to be pretty quick to grab it, otherwise it will fade away as it's lost over the edge. Like that right there. Alright, and probably worth healing. 25 health back, I'd say it's worth it. Alright, so these guys, they're... Oh man, that was the worst time to roll ever. Alright, try to eliminate the flyers, and then once they're down, this is all going to get a lot simpler. There is also a chest there. I do know that there are mimics. They're not nearly as rare as I would like them to be, so I did encounter them in just the very first run through. Alright, so I like to get rid of those guys first, and then let's create a little bit of space. Oh man, that was awful. We'll create a little bit of space, and then I'm gonna, again, try to take these guys out, mostly with spears from outside their range. I was kind of trying to say earlier, and if there would have been just one of these guys, I might try to demonstrate. But you can take them on with the sword and shield, using the shield a lot more, you know, and time blocking their attacks and then counter-attacking it. But what with all the shooty things and there being two of them, I figure we're not going to get too fancy with it right now. Alright, and that's probably a bar just lost to the ether. Alright, not so bad. And the lock pops off the chest. Is worth trying to hit it just in case. And then we get kind of interesting. So let's go left bumper. We'll just move everything. Eventually that quick loot stuff is going to become second nature, I'm sure. But we don't actually know what these items are until we go back to town. They'll remain hidden, which is interesting in a game where eventually your backpack size and loot valuation becomes a little bit more important. That information being hidden from you is actually kind of meaningful. Also, we haven't seen too much of the variance in loot, but I assure you that you can pick up like weapons down here, all that kind of stuff. So any of those hidden items could be something like quite spectacular, worth, you know, several thousand gold all by themselves kind of thing. Alright, this isn't too bad. I like how these guys, and you'll see there, just snatch that up, and they also do not drop the thing that they have snatched up. So like once they've taken it from you, it is basically lost for good. I kind of like that mechanic. Like it adds a certain sense of urgency. All right, so this is the time limit that exists in the game. After a certain period of time, we are going to encounter this green ghosty man. And what we're going to see is he's going to follow us around. So now that we have encountered him, we are like super on the clock. We can get a little bit of a lead on him, but he is otherwise going to stay more or less right on our heels. He is not the kind of thing that we want to fight. Put simply, he is invincible, and will one-shot the player. So there's been a lot of contention in the community surrounding that as a mechanic. I'm pretty okay with it, truth be told. I really don't want to just enter this next room right away, though, because he'll show up just like right after us. So what I'd like to do is maybe lure him a couple of rooms away. And once I've done that, I should then be able to kind of get him far enough behind us that I can complete another room. Go ahead and heal up just a little bit. And I am of course pressing my luck, but you know, we've still got plenty of pack room left, and I would like to do that. So there's been a bit of contention. Like a lot of people seem to think that, you know, this is just the antithesis of this style of gameplay. A dungeon crawler where you're not allowed to pick every last room until it is completely bare, and you've got sort of a time limit on you. I'm pretty okay with it. I think there is a sense of urgency that is gained from that enemy's inclusion that would otherwise be lost. As I mentioned earlier, with the with the way the loot mechanic works of items being able to fall off the cliff, with there being enemies that specifically try to loot stuff before you can get to it. It seems clear to me that, you know, the developer was going for some things that made it a little bit more strenuous at times to get your loot game on. Alright, so this is a little precarious due to the, oh man, oh, I almost completely screwed that up. Due to the sort of sticky slime stuff on the floor, and it actually caused me to kind of misjudge how fast I was going once I got out of it. But as you can see, like, you can deal with this guy, right? Like, you can't fight him. A lot of people are discussing, oh, and I wish I could talk about this right now, but I'm a little on a time crunch. So a lot of people are discussing, you know, like, oh, well, he would be fine, except there needs to be some way to defeat him, you know, even temporarily, to, like, run him off kind of deal. I don't necessarily think that that's true. Although I am about to, like, completely eat my words here, because this is a real bad position to be in. Hold on. There's going to be a little bit of a lack of narration here for a minute. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's real bad. Okay. So, I think that generally speaking, he can be dealt with, right? Like, we can kind of evade him. I am in a really precarious position, though, because the big green slime man moves faster than all of the other enemies in the room, which means he's going to overtake us before we can get in to, like, hit these guys. This is going to be a bit of a grind to kind of try to, like, lure him in one direction and then run back in another. I think what I need to do is maybe be hitting them when I go through the center. So, I mean, I can see that some people might not find this to be the most fun mechanic, but I'm kind of okay with it. The game is in, like, alpha, like, not we're calling it alpha to promote our video game, but, like, actual our video game's not done yet alpha. So there's certainly a lot of room for feedback and tweaking. There we go. And I think that's where we are. I imagine that mechanics are going to change a little bit by the time we get to release, but in general, the idea that the developers are going for, which is they want something that's a limitation on your ability to just run roughshod over the dungeon and do whatever you want and take as long as you want. I can get behind that. I'm pretty okay with that as a design philosophy, and I'll be interested to see where they take it by the end. Oh, that was a little close. The concept of this is an actual alpha, not just like a promotional thing. I actually just watched a GDC talk by one of the developers, like, of Darkest Dungeon. It was his 2016 talk, but had just been released from the quote-unquote GDC vaults, meaning that it is available now on their YouTube channel free of charge. You'll also notice this is a healing pool. We can get some HP back there. I think after that last room, I'm going to say that I've learned my lesson, and I'm going to get out of here while the getting is good. We'll go ahead and just portal back. I don't relish the thought of ending up in another, 2 minutes ring around the rosy battle with him and some of my least favorite big floaty knight-like enemies. That was just sort of a confluence of bad luck there. I wish I could review it in this screen. I think that might be beneficial, but you can see on the left-hand side we got kind of a block of something. We got what I think looks like a lantern, 2 lanterns, and then 2 more of the sort of ingot bars. Those were the hidden items that we couldn't see before. So the other option, of course, would be to to try to push forward. You might say we got a little bit unlucky there, considering we checked out 2 of the 3 starting paths to their conclusion. Is that right? Yeah, 2 of the 3 starting paths we checked out to their conclusion, and we did not find the entrance to the next floor, because that's the other way of dealing with him. Is if you get onto the next floor, you reset that timer onto, I guess it's probably 10 minutes. Anybody that's you've got the power of YouTube's ability to pause and actually check timestamps, but that seemed to be probably about 10 minutes down in the dungeon before he starts to show up. So let me finish a train of thought before I move on to another one. In the Red Hook Studios, Darkest Dungeon developers, GDC talk, they discussed one of the concepts about making sweeping gameplay changes in early access, and they were startled to find out that the concept of early access did not meet their expectation, that radically changing gameplay mechanics after you've gone into early access can upset some people, that the idea that they paid money for something and this is a product you've delivered to them, even if it's not considered in its finished state by you, it might be considered in its finished state by others. And I'm seeing a little bit of that on the forums, and I hate to get all high and mighty, but I think some people could use a different perspective on what they're here to do if they're playing a game so early on in its development process. This game, of course, not actually in early access. The alpha is only available to the Kickstarter backers, so maybe it won't be quite as bad as it was when Red Hook introduced the corpse mechanic. All right, so now that we've got some pricing for most of our items here, what we're going to be able to do is just quick place stuff. And that was a terrible example, right? So like, I never sold any of these. Okay, so these items, I got them down to like real cheap and no one wanted them still. So I actually think these iron bars and the hardened steel and the T-stone and maybe roots, these are going to be things that matter more for our trips to the blacksmith and less so for our ability to just sell them. So instead, and I've never seen the empowering crystal before. Yeah, so I never sold those either. We're gonna go ahead and sell a golem core. Never sold those either. And I don't think I had glass lenses the last time. I'm pretty sure we can sell these for a pretty hefty profit, actually. And I've never seen a water lamp before. I'm kind of curious. Does a water lamp, I want to, right trigger, there we go. Designed to carry gleaming water. Now, that interests me because there is that healing spring that's in the dungeon, and I assume there's one on every floor, but it's basically, it's not infinite healing, but it's quite a bit, like maybe 100 that you can jump into. So, obviously if you're healing for 100, you're not dead yet. So you can come back to it to top yourself off, if you find it earlier in the dungeon. I feel like we found it quite late. We'd already used several healing potions by the time it really became relevant. So, crystallized energy. You know what? Let's find out what crystallized energy looks like for a selling price as well. So, maybe still a little bit more shop pricing stuff to go, but you can at least, I hope, conceive of the fact that once you've experienced all these items and you've got a good idea of what the pricing should look like for them, it's actually fairly easy to sell them. They stack, and with just a push of a button, it'll move them from your inventory into the shop, and it'll use whatever the last sold price of them was. So at least in the instance of the golem core, I was able to get rid of those pretty easily. All of this stuff is a bit overpriced, so we're going to drop that. Well, that's not quite what I wanted. We're going to drop that by like 200 a piece. We'll take everything down to 300, and we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, also a white stone that I've never seen before. You know what? And again, I've never seen it before. Let's see, a container to preserve the properties of infused water. Okay, so with both the water lantern and the white stone, I'm kind of wondering if they don't somehow relate to the pool of healing water. If maybe if I'm able to equip them, I don't know. It doesn't really seem to show you like that there's a difference between equipable items and, just crafting items and things like that. He wasn't super happy with it, but he would pay 300. And I think the other two items are overpriced. And we can already see that it's kind of getting dusk out, so we are unlikely, I'd say, to get much else sold. Although we do have like over 6,000 gold now, we could probably stand to go do some buying of our own. How's this gonna do? No, no. Alright. So, this will probably end up being some more stuff that I will sort out off camera in between episodes. I'm gonna go ahead and close up shop for the day. And, you know what? Let's do a little upgrading. We're not gonna head out on another dungeon crawl just yet. We'll go ahead and sleep, which saves us. And then I'm going to head straight to our blacksmith first thing in the morning. Do a little bit of shopping of my own. I'm pretty sure all of the basic equipment is purchasable for 6,000. Alright, that was a little bit of a bug. The recipe showed it like 9 million gold for just a second. Okay, so we're missing the ore, I believe. So we probably just don't want to sell iron bars, 2 stone, or the ore. Even though the ore sells pretty well, it's required for armor and multiple types of weapons. So really these things that all sort of don't sell very well. I think the broken handle might sell okay, which is why I don't have any right now. But we're probably wanting to hold on to any of those that we get so that we can get our own crafting game on. And you'll see there's other stuff that we haven't encountered yet that is required for the higher levels. Okay, okay. So there's actually none of these weapons we could buy right now due to our complete and utter lack of ore. I wonder if the other shop sells ore. Like, he seems to mostly just sell crafting items. This was a terrible way to get there. And this is also the wrong shop. He mostly seems to sell crafting items. Yeah, here we go. Okay, only 375. I don't love. But you know what? Let's go ahead and grab 4 of those in the interest of grabbing some upgrades ourselves. And then what I'm thinking is the sword and shield combo has been doing fine for us. I like the bow, which I have played around with a little bit, and I like spears. We need another 4 ore to get both. And big swords can also be kind of interesting. They seem quite good, but like a little unwieldy to play with. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and craft the training spear. And that allows us to potentially unlock 1 of 2 paths. And I don't know... Okay, so in the upper right-hand corner we can see the name. So this is the warrior spear and this is the golem drill spear. One is giving us plus 50 to attack and the other is giving plus 40 to attack compared to the plus 20 of the base. So I'm not sure why you would ever want this one, but it's called a golem drill spear. And then even though these aren't... And then venom sting spear, hell spear, a lightning rod spear. I wonder if it has some sort of like special attack or unique ability, probably mapped to its heavy attack, right? And then warrior spear becomes wood spear, which becomes monkey spear, which becomes fighter spear. Oh wow, and that highest level gives us plus 4,000 to our attack, which is just absolutely insane to me, and is kind of a portent to the scaling that we're likely to see in the dungeons themselves. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the spear to replace my broom. So now we've got handy dandy spear stuff. And then of course a charge attack so we can do like a runny thing. And man, you almost died, guy. Yeah, Redmond, you could have been killed there just due to me randomly attacking into the air. Alright, this is going to give me an opportunity to stash some stuff. We do have a chest at the edge of our bed, which is apparently sometimes a little bit harder to access than I thought. And left bumper allows me to quick store everything. So we're going to want to do that before heading back out into the dungeon. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. Probably in the before the next episode, I'll try to sell some stuff again, get pricing sorted out for more and more of that kind of basic loot table, and then probably buy a few more healing potions. And in the next episode, I imagine we could make it down to level 2 of the dungeon and see what that is going to look like as far as an increase in difficulty. We can try to speed things up a little bit, maybe either that or play cat and mouse with Green Ghosty Man for a while. I think officially he has a much cooler name. It's like the Wanderer or something, but there's nothing in game that seems to indicate that. So Green Ghosty Man is where I'm going with him. We can try to either play cat and mouse with him or maybe just speed up our gameplay so that we don't encounter him and can make it to the level 2 door before he becomes a pain in our backsides again. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe. There's lots more on the channel. You can leave a like or a comment if you have anything to say about this or any of my other videos, and I will catch you guys next time.